Good afternoon. Today I will share our cyber threat intelligence plan. The objective of this session is to provide the executive leadership team the information necessary to allow you to make an informed decision about moving forward with this proposal to renovate our cybersecurity infrastructure. I will present this plan in 5 sections: an executive summary, what has changed, recent and relevant examples, prioritization of our action plan, and finally, concluding remarks. We have 2 major forces in play. One is our corporate strategy, which has 2 components to it: our move to connect our products, IoT, and our move to the cloud for our business applications. The second force is the change in cyber threats. To put it simply, hacking has gone pro. These 2 forces have been decided, meaning the organization is moving forward with its strategy and the threat actors are getting better. What hasn't changed is our cyber infrastructure. I will share more details throughout this presentation, but for now, I will summarize by saying we have a plan that can renovate our cyber infrastructure in 1 year with 3 initiatives and will be a top 5 best ROI program for the company. 3 initiatives to our strategy. First, we will shift the cost and the burden to the bad guys. We will create a system to disincent threat actors by making it so expensive and cost prohibitive they will likely go somewhere else. Second, we will integrate security experts and their best practices into our existing product management teams. And finally, we will take a threat scenario approach to understanding the attack vectors that considers multiple facets: assets, threats, vulnerabilities, and controls. So how do we get there? The path forward is a 1-year effort spanning people, processes, and technologies. All 3 will make up our cyber defense infrastructure. These activities will be composed of policy setting, training, monitoring, and enforcement. So what's changed? First, our strategy. We're moving to a hybrid environment for our business applications. Some will remain on-premise, and some will move to the cloud. And we're moving from selling widgets to providing connected solutions. Next, the threat actors have new motivations, and they've changed. In the early 2000s, they were primarily hackers. After further analysis, we have discovered this has shifted to careless employees and hacktivists. The combination of these 2 forces creates a much larger attack surface available for the bad guys. In this case, our cyber infrastructure was well suited to address the strategy and the threats from the 2000s. However, it no longer addresses the needs of our business and the threats to our business. As the attack surface graph illustrates, it's comprised of 2 dimensions: threat actor motivation and available access points. The dark green at the origin depicts our level of coverage, which has been sufficient in the past, given that most prior attacks originated from hackers for fun and profit. Additionally, the methods were typically head-on network attacks against our firewall. Over the last several years, however, we've seen threat actors motivated by theft of our intellectual property or the IP of our customers and partners. More importantly, the threat actors themselves now include well-funded nation states and other large entities with a lot of determination and resources. As we examine the attack surface moving left to right and bottom to top along each axis, the color shift depicts areas where our defense strategies become vulnerable to a breach. Consequently, through this program, we intend to build a culture of security across our portfolio of products and our hybrid business applications. So looking at 2 very recent and relevant examples. The Mirai attack from last year was a botnet class attack. Quite simply, the adversary searches the internet for vulnerable IoT devices, hacks into them, places malware for them to await further instructions. When the adversary is ready, he/she will enlist their army of tens of thousands, if not millions of IoT devices to flood a server, or in the case of Mirai, an entire data center. The consequences can be significant. DIN maintains a large data center for technology customers like Twitter, Spotify, and PayPal. Mirai hit their data center, launching 3 separate attacks during a single day. These attacks lasted about 2 hours apiece. However, the consequences were catastrophic for DIN's business. The outages were so severe it's estimated they lost 8% of their customers. Nowhere near as prominent, but equally catastrophic, was a data leak at Verizon last year. Verizon contracts with NICE Systems to manage their back office call center operations, and NICE contracts to Amazon Web Services for their data center. A careless employee at NICE was configuring one of the AWS servers and configured it incorrectly, allowing public access to the data of 6 million subscribers. Both cases are very relevant scenarios for us. In Mirai, our organization could easily become unwitting participants in the attack simply because our IoT devices were insecure, or the Mirai attack could have targeted either our data center or one of our vendors' data centers. In the Verizon leak, this could have very easily have been an employee at one of our vendors who was not properly trained. So those were two examples of an adversary whose interest is to breach our systems. This is an example of an adversary who poses a threat to one of our new lines of business. We are currently developing software for commercial sale. However, there has been little to no effort to understand the threats from others we are competing with in this market segment. The good news is there's a lot of intelligence that can be obtained with minimal effort. Sources like LinkedIn can provide a wealth of information that, if synthesized correctly, can produce actionable recommendations. For example, this is a competitor who competes with us with a new procurement solution. Through some research on open source intelligence techniques, or OSINT for short, we learned how many developers and salespeople they have and how long they've been employed with the company. From this, we determined that they could very easily fall behind if we do not continue hiring more developers over the next few years. But this tells us how many developers to hire versus a pure gut feel approach to hiring. So I used the term threat scenario earlier. This is a diagram that helps us prioritize the threat scenarios based on the probability of an attack against the impact of the attack. This does not represent all threat scenarios, not even close, but it does provide direction on where to begin our efforts, as it is likely to be directionally correct. In this case, we would likely look to bullets 5 and 7, as they have the highest probability of an attack and the impact is high. The threat actors in this case are employees and partners, whether it be customers or suppliers. From this, we can draw conclusions like prioritizing training for executives and employees with escalated privileges to avoid spear phishing attempts, just as an example. This chart provides an overview of the economics associated with addressing our needs. Overall, the payback is estimated to be between 1.6 and 2.5 months, or roughly 1,500% return on our investment. This would rank as one of the top 5 investments for the company. One of the inputs for this analysis was a benchmarking study, which is seen on the left. We looked at 2 common metrics, the average time to detect a threat and the average time to resolve a threat. In both cases, we were peer worst, 163 days and 57 days respectively. After conducting root cause analysis, we determined that our security analysts were encumbered by excessive time spent querying data. We reviewed a number of commercial grade tools and found FireEye to be the best fit for our business. As a CISO, it is my recommendation that we approve Operation Rottweiler and commence with the plan that I have shared with you today. Thank you for your time.